Anthony David Weiner is an American former politician who served as the U.S. representative for New York's 9th Congressional District from 1999 to his resignation in 2011. Weiner resigned from Congress June of 2011 after it was revealed he sent sexually suggestive photos of himself to different women. 2017, you pleaded guilty for transferring obscene material to a minor and was sentenced to 21 months in prison. He was also required to permanently register as a sex offender. Weiner began serving his federal prison sentence the same year and was released in 2019.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to First Reaction TV. My name is J Mart. So I started the day out by watching the new PBD podcast, and they had a guest on that was Anthony Weiner. Now, you just heard Patrick Bet-David's introduction of Weiner and how Weiner was a member of Congress up until he had to resign midterm because he was texting obscene images to a minor. So this ended up being one of the craziest podcasts I've ever seen. It started out with things just being argumentative and Weiner being very dismissive of Patrick Bet-David and the other guys on the panel, and then things got weird. Once things got personal, Weiner made some alarming, disgusting, and just flat out strange comments, and we're going to dive into all of them. So I really hope you guys enjoy this video. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate you checking it out.
So I got to tell you, I watched your documentary last night at midnight.
I've never seen it. What did you think of it?
A few things. You're very weird. I mean, that's very obvious. You're a very weird, interesting guy. But I'm going to tell you one thing about...
That's a kind adjective. We're just getting to know each other. You're already calling me weird. We barely know each other.
I think the opportunity to get to know each other was lost 10 minutes ago. But what do you think about what RFK's been doing?
He's been getting a lot of attention on podcasts from a lot of middle-aged white guys who are fascinated with him. What do they say? The higher the monkey climbs, the more you can see his ass. Every time he turns around, he's getting it in deeper and deeper, and whatever mission that he had is ending in failures.
So to get the attentions of guys in Silicon Valley that don't necessarily consider themselves...
Why do I care about those guys?
Maybe you should.
No, I didn't say I should. I didn't ask if I should. I said, why should I care? That's the question.
Why should they care about what you say, though? You said earlier, we were talking about RFK. You're like, well, it's just a money grab. He's trying to get money. He's trying to sell books. He's trying to do this. Did you read his Fauci book or no?
Oh, God, no.
You haven't read it?
Did I read the Fauci book? No, I didn't. I don't read.
Why not?
I don't. It's much easier just to read other people who debunk crazy conspiracy theories. I don't have to read the conspiracy theory.
So what was conspiracy theory about?
I'm not gonna. If your listeners want to go and do their own research on it, I'm not gonna sit here and be Fauci versus Kennedy on a conspiracy. I mean, I just don't have any interest in that. So I have sources that I trust. This is not such a novel idea.
But I would read the other side's book.
You would read every book on both sides of every what? Really?
If it's one of the biggest crises we experience over a 3-year period, yes.
The guys, if I have to anyone read within the sound of my voice can read what bullshit that guy is spewing. But I'm not going to have you want to have an argument about COVID.
I said, why would you read the book? That's all conspiracy theory.
No, he didn't say this. He had hit conspiracy theories.
If you haven't read it, how would you know what he said about it?
Because I explained this earlier to your question. I read the reviews of the book and the debunkings of the book.
So you read the reviews. Got it. And by the way, with all due respect, this is why people don't like you and trust you.
All right, so as you can see, things started out very contentious, where Anthony Weiner just seemed like he didn't want to be there. He seemed like he was annoyed with Patrick Bet-David. He seemed like he was annoyed with any question he was asked. And he was acting almost superior to everybody else that was there. Like he knew more, and that RFK is a joke, and that he's an ass, and that we're not concerned about RFK, and that all these conspiracy theories that some are turning out to be true now, we shouldn't worry about them. It happened 3 years ago. COVID's in the past. Let's not worry about COVID anymore. There was so much content in here, I'm going to have to do another video because this guy just makes a complete ass of himself talking about COVID, and you can tell he's just not equipped to answer some of these questions, where it seems like he's been, I don't know, locked in a federal jail for the past few years, and he's not really up to date with the current topics. So this interview seemed like it was going nowhere, but things got extremely interesting once they started talking about Weiner's personal life and about the federal charges that he pled guilty to. This is where things get really interesting.
I said, I got to respect that the fact that he's at least coming down. I respect anybody that's willing to go and sit down. For example, Newsom went to Hannity and sat down with Hannity, okay?
I've been on Hannity a ton.
Yeah, you got DeSantis, which, by the way, was very interesting. Your last interview with him a year ago when he asked you a question, how much has changed with you? And have you changed since all this stuff in your life? And your answer was, I think so. It's the audience decision to judge. That was kind of a weird answer when you said that
Well,
with him a year ago.
if you first of all, instead of characterizing it,
You want me to play it for you?
If you want to play it, I mean, if you want to play it.
Go ahead and play it. Let's play it and let's react
I'm not,
to it.
I mean, but if you want to go back.
I don't want to go
we're
back.
We're kind of all over the map here, but go
Yeah.
ahead. I'll be glad to go. I don't.
See Radio in New York, they are exploring the left-right divide and major issues afflicting New York City and beyond. One of the co-hosts is former New York Congressman Anthony Weiner. He spent 18 months in confinement for sexting with a 15-year-old girl. He was released in 2019. He says he's ready to answer tough questions about his own life, the challenges facing the country. He's joining now our friend Curtis Sliwa with a new show, their co-host, The Left versus the Right. Anthony Weiner, thank you for being with us. Curtis Sliwa, always good to see you, my friend. I guess the first question that I have is, you pled guilty, Anthony, to sending obscene materials to a young girl, a 15-year-old girl. You pled guilty, you served jail time. Have you changed? Are you a different person?
Well, I think so. I don't think anyone can go through that kind of experience, and I think this is probably true of people who have been through other types of adversity. I don't think you go through that type of experience and don't emerge changed.
Well, but Anthony, wait a minute.
So
that's
I think it's fairly
Anthony,
obvious.
That's an obscure answer. I think so. Either you know in your heart if you changed, or you know in your heart if you didn't change. Can you assure people, because you're going to now try and draw in an audience, and they're going to want to know if you changed or not. Have you changed?
They can judge for themselves.
I'm sorry?
I said they can judge for themselves. I'm not out to persuade you or anyone else that I've changed. I mean, I'm doing a radio show, and people can call in and ask me questions. We did one this past Saturday where people had an opportunity to call in. And
pause it.
All right, so if you're watching this and you're newer to the political world, kind of like I am, where you haven't been paying attention for the last 5 to 10 years or haven't been paying attention in depth, this was a lot more serious than I had any idea. I've always heard about the Anthony Weiner thing and how he sent pictures of his wiener to people, and when it comes down to it, the details in this were a lot more disturbing, where he was sexting a 15-year-old girl, and he was texting pictures of himself and having video chats and asking her to strip, all kinds of disturbing things. So whenever he gets out of jail and he goes on Hannity's show and he gets asked if he's changed, this is the easiest question in the world for anybody to answer. This is so simple. You're being asked if you're ever going to sexually groom or send explicit images to underage girls ever again. And the answer is no, obviously. And if you can't answer that straightforward, then dude, you still got a ton of problems.
You said you want to react to it?
No, you were characterizing it, so rather than you characterize it.
Was I pretty accurate on characterizing it, or was I a little off?
I'd be honest with you, it's a
Got it.
while
I just
ago.
want to make sure I'm pretty accurate.
Would it be fair to say you stand by that statement? Do you think you have changed? Dude, I didn't know those allegations. Those are heinous allegations. Have you changed?
Well, we have a nuanced relationship with the notion of change in addiction, that we believe that you don't stop being an addict, that every day you've got to take your medicine. It's no different than being an epileptic, that once you know you have the disease, you've got to take your medication. But
A disease of texting and sexting a 15-year-old girl, a disease?
Well, I did all of these things under the influence of an addiction that I still have.
What is that addiction?
I would carry on. I've talked about this a lot on the radio show, but it's a little bit of a hard pivot here.
Yeah, this is a really hard pivot here because you just got asked if you were addicted to texting and sexting underage girls and you didn't have an answer. You didn't even like look like you were shocked by that question, and that you weren't even shocked that you didn't have an answer. You just looked like you didn't want to admit that that's literally what you're addicted to, that you're addicted to underage girls. This is disgusting. And now he's going to get into this whole 12-step program and how he's an addict and come up with some more excuses that we're going to debunk in a few seconds.
I would carry on with dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people in something that I never met any of them. And in those dozens and dozens of interactions, some of them would be sexual, some of them would not be sexual, some of them would be me giving advice on how to change a fuse in your car. But that interaction that I was getting into was stimulating something in me that was addictive. That was, I couldn't stop, even after I had increasingly worse consequences, I couldn't stop. It accelerated to the point where I hit my bottom. Actually, when I went to prison was not when I hit my bottom, it was before then. I went to rehab, and I am in recovery today. But call it what you want. I mean, my brother died an addict. I'm in programs for addiction around this behavior.
What were you addicted to?
It's not really clear what was doing the thing. Is it the feedback? Is it the flirting? Is it the affirmation? Is it who knows? Process addictions like gambling and whatever, overspent. Like,
according to Anthony Weiner, his addiction is just like gambling addiction, and it's just like process addiction, like overspending, that real simple type of addiction type stuff. Even though he just got asked for a second time, are you addicted to underage girls? And he didn't answer. He got asked a second time, and he still has yet to give an answer if he is addicted to underage women. So just to get this straight, this dude spent 2 years in federal jail. He had to get therapy. He had to go to a halfway house. He had to do all these things. He's doing a 12-step program, which the only way you can do a 12-step program is by step 1, admitting and acknowledging you have a problem. Well, you have to admit and acknowledge what that problem is to move to step 2. If you don't know what that problem is, which he's running around the circle right now trying to come up with all these different theories and make up all these things that, well, it's a non-binary thing. He is the first transgender addict where his addiction is non-binary, and he's just addicted to multiple things apparently. Like, this is made up, man. Yes, you can be addicted to multiple things at once. You can be addicted to gambling and booze and pills and all types of things at once. But they are still their own separate things. Anthony Weiner is sitting here trying to get people to believe that he did a 12-step program and he's in addiction rooms, but he's not 100% sure what he's actually addicted to. This is a joke. This shit is made up, and it's disgusting.
sometimes they unlike people who deal with alcohol, which I'm also, not doing. They're very easy. Put the cork in the bottle. We now binary thing. This is what it is that you're addicted to. In today's world, the rooms that I'm in are filled with people that it manifests in a lot of different ways. People with pornography, people around escorts, people around different elements of the part of our brain that stimulates that kind of stuff.
So you're an attention addict? Are you a drug addict, a sex addict?
I mean, the program.
Narcissist? What is it?
The program. Well, narcissist is a diagnosis of a thing. I'm in a program for sex addicts that has a really wide range of bottom lines. The people in these rooms, and we have a tradition not to talk about it, just like AA has, but doesn't do much anymore. But yeah, I mean, my program of recovery is related to sex addiction.
All right, so we finally got at least a little bit of truth here, where some sort of his addiction is related to sexual addiction. We still haven't got an answer where, once again, if you're in any sort of 12-step program, you have to admit or acknowledge your problem. Like, you have to do that. That is the number one thing you have to do in any of these programs. Next, there is anonymity in AA and drug addiction rooms where, yes, you don't talk about other people. You don't bring up other people's names and put other people's names out there in the world and put their business out there. But there's never been any sort of rule or any sort of taboo that you can't talk about your experience in AA or NA or any other addiction room. That's not true. Anthony Weiner just made that up. So there's only two options here. He has either never been in a 12-step room before, or he is, and he's literally not telling you that he's addicted to children. Like, that's where this is right now. So only one or the other can be true at this point, because he said so much misinformation and wrong information that there's no way this guy is familiar with addiction rooms and can spew this garbage, where he's either not telling the truth about the addiction room or he's not telling the truth about his actual addiction.
Are you talking like from a standpoint of sex addiction, or you hear the phrase the minor attracted persons? Is that what you're talking about?
The court said I didn't have any attraction to minors. The court case, we never had a trial.
Yeah.
As no one gets trials, there are no trials anymore in this country. We're down to about 2% of cases go to trial because of the penalties around going to trial. I pled. I accept responsibility. I did my time. I understood I understood what the judge meant when she said that no one's ever been sentenced for this before, but because you're a public figure and we have to make an example, I understand someone has to be the first in these types of circumstances.
This dude just got asked for the third time if he's attracted to minors, and his answer was, the court never found it. That was his answer for the third time being questioned if he's attracted to kids.
All of that being said, I don't think the system is corrupt. I don't think that I think there are things that should be fixed in it. But this is the greatest country on earth. We have a criminal justice system that is the worst in the world, except when compared to every other one. And I know that when you're a person of my prominence, that there's an expectation that I'm going to be sentenced for things that someone else might not be.
Do you think you should have gone to jail?
No.
You do not?
I should not.
What were the exact charges?
So the exact, as they said, I pled to. There was no, I didn't have a chance to go to trial. I didn't have a chance for them to put proof on, and that they didn't, there was no physical evidence. There was no, I should not have gone to, no one's ever gone to jail for this. I mean, we had a former governor prosecuted in the same district that literally was using money in transactions to hire sex workers and things like that. And he wasn't prosecuted. He resigned and, whatever. He left in disgrace. The disgrace and dishonor that I met with and being in recovery and trying to get my life back. I don't think people should go to prison for what I did.
All right, so let's go back to debunking this entire 12-step narrative that Weiner has created here. He doesn't think he should have went to jail, right? So that also means that he doesn't think he did anything wrong. I mean, that's the only way this logic could work, is that you didn't do anything wrong, so you shouldn't have went to jail. Well, in any 12-step program, your goals and actually your necessities are you have to be brutally honest with yourself and others, you have to accept responsibility, you have to make amends for your past transgressions, and those are just a couple of the things. So in order to be brutally honest and do all these things, let's find out if Anthony Weiner did anything wrong, right?
Mr. Weiner, any comment?
Anthony Weiner, sullen and speechless, emerging from a New York City courtroom Monday where he was sentenced by a judge to 21 months in prison for sexting with a 15-year-old. The former congressman sobbing upon hearing the judge's decision. Only moments earlier, he told the judge through tears that he had hit rock bottom and was a changed man, saying, "I was a very sick man for a very long time." Earlier this year, Weiner pled guilty to one count of transferring obscene material to a minor. His teenage victim appeared on Inside Edition earlier this month.
I just sent him a nice message, just, hello, I'm a huge fan.
His texts range from, "Your body is pretty insane. I thought about you this AM," to this picture of him with his son.
But did you get it right? He asked this girl to strip naked, which she did, as he watched on Skype and Snapchat. He could have gotten 10 years. He got a couple of months. They asked for 27 months. He got 21 months. Yes, I'm disheartened. I'm very disheartened. And he will repeat offend.
So Weiner was sexting a 15-year-old girl. He was sending obscene images back and forth. He was asking her to do inappropriate things on live streams. He was sending Snapchats back and forth with her. He tried to get her an apartment so he could go visit her whenever he wanted. He was grooming an underage person. And he doesn't think he did anything wrong. And he's supposedly in this 12-step program where he's being brutally honest with himself and others, okay? This is insane. He's low-key telling everyone right now that he's a phile, okay? This dude's a predator. This guy is a flat-out predator. And he can't even accept responsibility and admit what he's done, what he did wrong, what he's addicted to, and that he should have even been punished for it now. He doesn't think he should have been punished for these things. Grooming underage kids, it's okay in Anthony Weiner's book.
So when Sean Hannity says to me, have you changed, or are you better, or have you improved? And I say, I don't know, and then I put some meat on the bones, and I say, look, that's for other people to decide if they want. I'm not terribly concerned about that. If someone wants to ask me a specific question like you've asked me today, I'll be glad to answer it. But no, I'm not particularly concerned.
Have you
about
watched
that.
Sounds of Freedom? They quote the stat of 20 million new child pornography pictures have been uploaded on the internet the last 12 months. That's a 5,000% increase in the last 5 years.
It's a huge problem, but I'll go beyond that. I mean, there is a I don't want to get out over my skis, and it's probably $1 trillion industry around pornography of all types.
You're not equivocating porn with child sex trafficking.
Well, what I'm saying is that I'm putting them in the same category. I'm putting them in the same category.
Consensual sex.
Well, hold on a second.
Versus child sex trafficking.
We have no idea. We have no idea about what consent people have given. Whether they, if you don't believe that porn is exploitive of people, then I mean you and I have a different understanding. I'm not saying that all of it is.
I highly disagree.
I'm not saying that all of it is, but I'm saying it's the same.
All right, so here I think Anthony Weiner is I think he's nervous. I think the topic of child exploitation and child pornography got brought up, and he got extremely nervous. Now, if he actually believes that two consenting adults making a video together is the same as child exploitation, then welcome to the mind of a predator, where these people don't see things the way normal people in society do. Like, there's just no normal explanation for this. You could never logically work your way into consenting adults equals the same as exploited child. Like, there's just no way you can come to that conclusion in any way. Now, yes, in society, you could say those two consenting adults are exploiting themselves, or it's a burden on society, or some other type of argument, but that wasn't what this conversation was or what it was supposed to be about. So I can kind of understand Anthony's point, but once again, I believe he's trying to change the subject here because of what he's done.
Anthony, you say I'm left, but I'm not far left, right? There's certain things you don't agree with everything on the left. So here's a question for you. They send me these pictures that 10-year-old kids can now learn in school.
Well, answer this question. Who do you think is more equipped to make these decisions for a local community? The local community school boards and the local community administrators, or legislators a half a state away who don't even represent that district? Who would you think?
I think we've already said that. The people in the school board,
So
but it's not happening.
But what if
that's the issue? It's not
I know,
happening.
but that's
Anthony.
your judgment. The point about 3,000 miles away is you're making a judgment on their ability to do their jobs. I get it. Maybe if I was doing
It's not my judgment. The books are
If I went
there.
to a school district in Mississippi, I might make different decisions. But I'm a Jew from Brooklyn, so I'm not going to do that. I will make the general argument that it's none of your business. It's none of your business. Your business is your school district. Your business is now. The world is coming to an end because California's all fucked up.
It's the other way around. It's none of your business what I do with my kids. You don't get to teach my kids about certain issues like this on LGBTQ at certain age, and
Hold
in
on a
third
second.
grade you want to talk about sex
Why
and
are
all
you
this
so
stuff. That's none
powerless?
of your
Patrick,
business.
why are you so powerless?
That's
What
none of
goes
your
on?
business.
Patrick, why are you so powerless? What goes on in your kid's
no,
school?
I'm not powerless.
You're
I make
not.
decisions.
Exactly.
I make decisions. I never feel
You-
powerless
exactly.
at all. No.
So why are you saying
the
I'm not
concept
doing
of-
anything to your
The
kids?
concept of running for boards, you're 100% right. We did a video talking about, what was the video title, Brandon? We talked about parents, you got to go run for board, and rather than complaining about it, do
Beautiful.
something about it.
There you
Absolutely,
go.
we're for it. But to say these types of issues, you're 59 years old, 15 years older than me, in school, when you were 12 years old, did anybody teach you how to give a blowjob?
I don't believe anyone taught me how to give a blowjob, Patrick.
Do you think you needed to learn how to do that at 10 or 12 years old?
I have trouble accessing that part of my memory.
I highly doubt it. You're a very sharp guy. So for me,
I was not a player at 12. Let me guarantee you.
sucking other boys as dangling is not a player. I'm asking you a question about what it was to, if that was something you needed to learn at the age of 10 or 11 or 12. That part is
Patrick.
How
Patrick,
ludicrous
you
is
don't
my
need
question
to
right
ask
now?
me. I have an 11-year-old. Ask me about my 11-year-old. That
How
I can
ludi-
answer easily.
But
I
If your
disagree.
11-year-old son was exposed to this, or a grown adult, a grown man was texting your 11-year-old son, what would you do about it?
That's not the question we're suggesting. You're
course, it's all
you're
in that-
taking an excerpt from a California book that we
But
all
what would
find
you do if
disgusting.
someone you found someone texting your son?
Wait a minute. Well, let's stick with the books for a second.
So this just gets weird. Anthony Weiner brings up his own child and says, ask me about my own child. And then when he's asked about his own child, he says, wait a second, let's just talk about the book. Because whenever someone confronted him and said, what would you do if someone sent sexually explicit images to your 11-year-old son? What would you do? You know, what you did to this underage girl, the way you groomed this girl, the way you sent sexually explicit images to this girl. How would that make you feel if someone did that to your son? And Anthony Weiner didn't want to talk about it. And throughout this entire podcast, we never actually found out what Anthony Weiner's addiction actually is. He was asked multiple times, but we never got a straight answer. And this was pretty much the end of Anthony Weiner's personal life throughout this podcast. They go over more topics involving Hillary Clinton, and things get even more heated, and they get wild, and screaming matches ensue, and it does get pretty crazy. But hey, let me know what you guys think Anthony Weiner's addiction is, and let me know if you think he's a predator or a pedophile. I really appreciate you watching and checking out this video. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate everyone out there watching, and thanks for all the support.
You have a reputation whether you like it or not. What's your reputation? Your reputation is you like to text underage girls, and you like to talk to girls, and you sex sending pictures of your dangling. That's your reputation. Whatever you do, you can't do anything about it.
Wait a minute, hold on. Let me,
Fantastic.
you know what? You are the classic bully. You list someone's name,
You
and
are
are you going to
classic.
go back
If
and
there's
clarify
anybody
it?
that's the
Are
bully,
you going to
it's
go
you.
clarify?
You know what the
Are you going to
qualities of your
clarify this
personality
list?
is. You
I
wanna
don't want
really
you
know
could
that.
ad hominem attack on me.
Yeah.
Is going to somehow
Classic
clear that
bully.
person's name.
There isn't anybody at this table that's a bigger bully than
I
you.
tell you. Oh yeah. You just listed some stranger with
Very
PFC.
good
with
deceptive
PFC.
way of pinning. Good
Look
for
at
you, guy.
You're reading some.
Good for you.
You're reading a conspiracy website.
Good
and saying,
for you.
Some people say